Welcome to Supreme TV. I'm your host, Mac Rue. You know what I'm saying? Also known as Supreme Success. Um, I appreciate everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, and comes in and is a part of the channel. I apologize for me not uploading lately and not putting a lot of stuff down. Don't worry, I'm gonna definitely start coming with it a whole lot more. I'm gonna start dropping a whole lot more content. Um, so just bear with me if you can. I got some things going on, but I want to make sure that I jump into the space and I get into some of these conversations that I've been seeing pop up. And one of the conversations I'm definitely going to get into is Tupac Shakur. And the reason why I want to jump into that is because I think that it's always seen from a certain lens and not now let me say this. I was a teenager and a big fan of hip hop, not just West Coast hip hop, but down south, East Coast. I mean hip hop as a whole. I've been a fan of hip hop since the 80s. But I was a teenager in the 90s, and so even the shocking death of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. As you can see, I got a Biggie Smalls poster and I got a Pac poster right here. But the shocking death of both of those brothers, blew my mind back then. But I was also somebody who I feel paid close attention to what was going on back then, and so I feel like I can give a understanding of what I believe happened. Now, this is a theory. This is not a matter of fact thing. This is not me saying I was there. I know, I don't know. But just from some of the things I'm seeing, I have my own theories. And I think that a lot of people have their own theories and their own takeaways from what was going on. This is not the only conversation that I'm going to enter in when it comes to Tupac. I'm going to enter into a couple of conversations, but not right now. Right now, I'm going to stick to the script, and I'm going to go with the situation I want to talk about, which is the quad shooting, the quad studio shooting, and him and Notorious B.I.G.'s situation. Now, also, I want to make sure that I touch on some other things, about Tupac Shakur, what I mean, the late great Tupac Shakur. And but if you just follow me, I think you guys will maybe understand, and give me some feedback. Let me know if I'm if you feel like I'm on the money, or if you feel like I'm just saying something that is don't make sense. Let me know. I don't think that you guys will get that from me. I think you'll see that I'm pretty well thought out about what I'm saying. And in the meantime, if you would like, share, and subscribe to the channel, the more people that like, share, and subscribe to the channel, of course, helps me get into the YouTube algorithm, and then I can start dropping more videos and you can start seeing more stuff from me. You know what I mean? I'm a self-made channel. I have some friends in the industry. I've had some of these conversations with people within the industry. Everybody has a different take on what happened to Tupac Shakur. And what was going on at that time. I was not around these people in the industry at that time for me to have any kind of conversation about it. I've heard other people, just as you have, speak on these situations, and I just been kind of piecing certain things together. But right now, I want to touch on the quad studio shooting in New York, because I feel like that's an important situation. As we know, Tupac in 1995 was shot at Quad Studios. And it's unfortunate that he was shot in New York, in a place that he did love. And, I think me being a person from the West Coast, and loving West Coast hip hop, and loving West Coast rap music, and also loving East Coast rap music, because at the time I was a big East Coast fan too. One of my favorite rappers is AZ. And I love Jay-Z, Nas, Cormega. I'm a big Cormega fan. Camp Lo, Smooth the Hustler, Shaheem, the Wu-Tang Clan, without a doubt. I bought all that stuff. Raekwon is one of my favorite Wu-Tang Clan members. One of the greatest albums from the Wu-Tang is GZA, in my opinion. So it's not that I'm not coming from a biased situation. I am from the West Coast, but I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for East Coast and the rap out of the East Coast. And so I want to just make sure that I give a fair and honest opinion on what was going on. And shout out, rest in peace to the late great Notorious B.I.G., DMX, Jam Master Jay, and of course Tupac Shakur. You know, who I see as a bi-coastal rapper, not just a West Coast rapper, not just the East Coast rapper, but a very bi-coastal and worldly rapper. And I think that that's what makes him so special to everybody who likes hip hop and even talks about this situation. All right. So, like I said, if you guys would like, subscribe, share, you know what I mean? I appreciate it. And let's get into it, man. And also, man, send them comments. But let's get into it. With Tupac Shakur, I feel like when he was shot at Quad Studios in 1995, and his situation with Notorious Big and why it became what it became, right? Just from what we all see, you know, from what I've been hearing, shout out Gene Deal. Some of this information comes from how Gene Deal has spoke on the situation. I paid close attention to Gene Deal's conversation about this. And Lil C's, shout out Lil C's and Junior Mafia. So yeah, one of the conversations I've been seeing, Gene Deal was saying that, you know, that they weren't too, you know, it was some people not too fond of Tupac, but more than just Tupac, you know, I think it was a brewing beef with not just Tupac Shakur, but with people like Suge Knight as well, which I think that people pinpoint Tupac to be down with Suge only in the Death Row days. Only in the time of Death Row, when he got to Death Row, which was only an 8-month span. But Tupac had actually been down with Suge for a lot longer than that 8 months. If anybody remembers, Tupac was a featured artist on the Above the Rim soundtrack. That came out in 1994, late 1994, early 1995, if I'm not mistaken. I have that soundtrack. Actually, let's see. How about this? Boom. Y'all remember when tapes came like this? So this came out in, I can't see, but if anybody knows, this particular tape has the songs on it, Pain and Loyal to the Game, and the movie Above the Rim, which was shot, I believe, in New York, but the soundtrack was done indeed by Death Row Records. So them doing this soundtrack at the time, Tupac was on here. He had 2 songs on, actually had 3 songs on this album. So when you think about it, he's been kind of intertwined with Death Row way before he even made it to Death Row. That was actually 2 years before he got over to Death Row as an artist. So I do believe the story that they were trying to get Tupac to come to Death Row way before he got there. The fact that Pain and Loyal to the Game is on here, and he did Loyal to the Game with Treach from Naughty by Nature. He's on here as well on the song Loyal to the Game, which is actually dope because if you guys really know, that's the only song that we know of with Treach from Naughty by Nature and Tupac, even though they were good friends. The only song that you know them to be on together is actually on here, and it was taken off of the second round of tapes that came out. And this is actually a special tape because if you were to get this on CD or a second round of tapes or vinyl, you wouldn't have got those songs. Those songs were actually taken off of the albums. So that's something that a lot of people don't know. Unless you were there at that time, unless you lived through that time and you remember that particular cassette coming out. But him getting shot at Quad Studios, I think what was happening was, in my belief, my theory, why he felt like Notorious Big knew something was going to happen, or felt, or even felt like he should have said something to him about the brewing situation that he was in. A lot of people from the East Coast, I got friends from New York, who felt like Tupac knew what problems he had in New York. Indeed, I'm sure he probably did know what problems he had in New York. But I think that Tupac may have been looking at it like, well, hey, look, I got these problems, but I still got partners out here via the Live Squad. Rest in peace, Stretch. From the Live Squad, who was a avid member of being with Tupac in the Outlaws, but he wasn't not the Outlaws, but the Thug Life group, which I didn't understand how Stretch didn't become one of the members of Thug Life. I'm not sure if he was a rapper or if he was just somebody who was Tupac's homeboy. I feel like Stretch was on some stuff, but I don't remember exactly. But I believe, Live Squad, unless Stretch was just a part of the Live Squad, alone. But yeah, him hanging with Stretch in the Live Squad, which was some New York guys, I believe from Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. I think he felt, like he would be able to ward off any of the problems that he was having out in New York, and he felt like he had a crew of people that was street enough to roll with him if anything would have played out or happened to him. And I think that that's where his disappointment came in for people like Biggie Smalls, excuse me, for Notorious B.I.G., because that's another thing I'm gonna point out too about him calling himself Biggie Smalls. I think that may have rubbed Tupac a little wrong as well. I'm not sure though. I'm just, like I said, what I'm saying is not factual, just speculation. But I believe that Andre Harrell and Puff Daddy actually knew what was going to play out in that studio that night. And I think that Tupac felt like that because Puff Daddy and Andre Harrell knew what was going to play out, that all the other rappers knew what was going to play out. And I think that he felt like I think he felt set up, but I don't think he felt set up by Notorious Big. I just think he felt set up by the people who was around him, and he felt like that they weren't riding with him against the people that set him up that night. In my personal opinion, do I think that he was set up by a street situation? I'm almost going to say no. I believe that what he was saying in the song Against All Odds about, knowing dude was working with the feds and all that, I believe that there was some federal activity around. And when Tupac became a victim of the situation at the hotel, I believe that was COINTELPRO. And I believe Tupac has been being followed by COINTELPRO, was being followed by COINTELPRO his whole life. I think that once he started to become a rapper, and he started to make the noise he was making, because a lot of people don't realize Tupac wasn't a gangster rapper. Gangster rap was something that they would call the music, but he was more of a political voice for hip hop. And I think that when he got to the point of, when he got to the point of being that gangster, that person, after the Digital Underground situation, I think that their eyes they had to really figure out how to get him out the way. And I think that the first attempt on Tupac was in Oakland, when the police stomped his head into the curb and all that. I believe that was the first attempt to actually brain damage that dude and really try to get him out the way. I think when they seen that didn't work, they had to resort to a new tactic, because to do something to him twice would not make a lot of sense. And it would actually, I believe it would have sparked an understanding that, hey, somebody's after this guy. So I think they had to go another route. And so they said, okay, well, this is just theory. My theory is that they found people who were cooperating with the feds and cooperating within COINTELPRO. Because if anybody knows about COINTELPRO, it's black people who were always cooperating with COINTELPRO. It was your own people. It wasn't the outside person. It was somebody who was close to you who usually cooperated with COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO took down the Black Panthers. Tupac is a child of the Black Panthers. And I still think COINTELPRO exists today. I just think it exists in a different space right now. But that's neither here nor there. You can go to my channel and check out the video I did about COINTELPRO, because I did one about some of these these bloggers and these guys that's jumping on these podcasts and making podcasts, and them being COINTELPRO and the way they operate. So I believe that at that time they were using street guys, for the COINTELPRO movement, which it still goes on today. Do not get it twisted. It's real. But yeah, and look into COINTELPRO, because it's a deep situation. It was actually put in place by J. Edgar Hoover to take down the Black Panthers. And so Tupac was the remnants, the last of the Black Panthers. And they create confusion within these organizations. And hip hop happened to be one of the places that was starting to be organized, and using the young black men to organize themselves to be a little bit more have things together. And I believe COINTELPRO is also the same people who killed off the political rap of Public Enemy and things like that. And they also forced into us the gangster rap that we see today, and the go against each other rap that we see. And I think Tupac was a child of not only the Black Panthers, but also a revolutionary rapper who was a child of people like Public Enemies raps, X-Clan, and guys like that. You know what I'm saying? And even, but I think he also exuded the have fun rap too. I feel like he had a lot of that in him as well. But I feel like and then him coming from Digital Underground, which is an Oakland-based group that a lot of people, know Digital Underground for the Humpty Dance, but Digital Underground was absolutely a political rap group as well. They had some political songs. If you ever go check out, they dressed it up. But if you go check out Sons of the P album, they had a song called No Nose Job. They had a song called Heartbeat Props. And, just some of the songs that they had was indeed some, they had fun music, but they also had some political undertones in their music. And so, with hip hop shifting in the early 90s and about 92, with hip hop shifting over into the gangster rap, we start getting songs like Trapped. But when we got Brenda's Got a Baby, of course, that was a political song. That was about a political situation. Keep your head up. A political song about political situations that black people was going through. Even all the way to Me Against the World. Now, Me Against the World is when things changed for Tupac. With the success of I Get Around and songs like that, they would coin his music gangster rap, but a lot of it, Holler If You Hear Me, and all them songs was more East Coast sounding, East Coast music, and even that, it was a song called Strictly Representing. You guys should go check out by Tupac, where he gives it up for the East Coast rappers and West Coast rappers and a lot of the underground rappers at that time. And so I thought that was always dope that he, he did. On that album, he has a song with Ice Cube, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm mistaken. I might be mistaken, but I thought he had a song with Ice Cube. I'm not sure though. I definitely know that Streets is Death Row, he samples Ice Cube. But Tupac was just a great artist, man. And I believe COINTELPRO was following him around. And the bigger he got, the more afraid of his influence. I believe they said, okay, he is that person. He is that influential guy. And I think him showing up at certain rallies for black people and to, certain things, and the way he was speaking, he was giving that, he wasn't controllable. And he was letting them know, you're not going to control me. And I think that what played out in New York was exactly that. Now, this is the other part that I think people miss. The East Coast, West Coast war was actually something that he never said. That was a Vibe magazine that came out with Puff Daddy on the cover and Notorious Big on the cover. It was a Vibe article that came out. And on the Vibe cover, it said, I have a picture of it. Let me pull that up. Let me pull this up right now, because I do have a picture of this cover, I believe. I thought I did. If I don't, I will pull it up. I can get it real fast, because I've always tripped off people, selling that there was this East Coast, West Coast war, and that it was started by Tupac, and that it was started by the rappers, and it wasn't. It was started by Vibe magazine, and that was the first time you would see that ever even play out like that, right? That you would even see that even said. And so it's very sad that people are, they like to give that to Tupac and them, but the truth is it wasn't them. It was not Tupac, and it was actually the cover of a Biggie Smalls cover, and I believe I found it. Let me see. I know I have it though. But yeah, I'll definitely find it. Give me a second, you guys. But I just want to show you how real this is, that they use publication to create this situation. And I believe that this is what really kicked off what we thought as an East Coast, West Coast war between two rappers. And it really wasn't, it didn't start out that at all. So here you go. This is the special third anniversary issue, Vibe, East versus West. Biggie and Puffy break their silence. And this was the cover right here. That was the album cover. I mean, the Vibe magazine cover. As you can see, it says East versus West on there. And so, that was them pitting artists against each other and putting it in the mainstream that there was this narrative. They were painting the narrative that there was an East Coast West Coast war, which in truth, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a fan of California music, which is predominantly the West Coast sound. There wasn't no East Coast West Coast war. It was really a situation between Tupac and Biggie Smalls, and it really didn't hit airways for a lot of us until we heard "Hit 'Em Up." A lot of us didn't even know that these dudes was going at it until "Hit 'Em Up" came out. And "Hit 'Em Up" came out when Tupac was on death row, which was only 8 months, and then within that 8 months he had passed away. The next thing that we would start hearing is like the next time we heard any kind of like response to "Hit 'Em Up," what we felt was the response to "Hit 'Em Up" was Jay-Z on Jay-Z's album. When Notorious Big said that Faith had twins, she'd probably have Tupac's. Now, this is the crazy thing about this. A lot of people don't realize when Machiavelli came out, Tupac was already gone. He was already dead. So to say that there's this East Coast, West Coast war brewing because Tupac, like this is one song that played out. Well, okay, no, let me rewind. We also had the video for Ain't Nothing But a Gangster Party, because in that we seen him reference Biggie Smalls in excuse me, we seen him represent have a play out of Puff and Big in that video, right? And even in that, I feel like it wasn't blatant. It was blatant, but we weren't looking. I don't think we even realized how we didn't look so deep into that until we heard "Hit 'Em Up," until "Hit 'Em Up" came out. When "Hit 'Em Up" came out, that's when all hell broke loose and everybody heard that. Now I remember I was when "Hit 'Em Up" came out, that I believe that was the summertime, and that came out on the B-sides of "How Do You Want It." So what people don't even realize is that was just a B-side song. The whole time that All Eyes on Me was out, we didn't know that Tupac and Notorious Big was beefing. Nobody knew that. It wasn't an open thing. That wasn't the open theme to hip hop at the time. We didn't realize that this was a problem until "Hit 'Em Up" came out, in which "Hit 'Em Up" was the B-sides to "How Do You Want It." That would have probably came out in 96. I say around maybe right at the end of the summertime, during the summertime. "How Do You Want It" came out as a single, and it spread, you know what I mean? And then he was dead by September. So if we're thinking that "How Do You Want It" came out as a single, I'll look it up. Well, we ain't gotta even say, we'll tell you when "How Do You Want It" came out. The B-sides, when they "Hit 'Em Up," when "How Do You Want It" single came out. When did that single drop? It was released in 1996. Mind you, Tupac was dead in 96. So, that it really shows you, you know. So let's get to this. All Eyes on Me was released on June 4th, 1996. 1996, excuse me, as a double-sided album, right? How Do You Want It? When was this released? It doesn't say exactly when "How Do You Want It" was released. But "Hit 'Em Up" came out on that. Like I said, that was in the summertime. So How Do You Want It came out. And I believe that was like the second single off of, that was the second single. So the second single, and then, but from June to September is the only amount of time that we truly knew that there was a beef with Tupac in what's it called? So no, that was the third song, because we first got California Love. California Love came out first. Then we got the double CD. Then we got Two of America's Most Wanted. Then we got How Do You Want It. So that's how that rolled out, I remember. And with How Do You Want It, we got Hit 'Em Up. But he was dead by the time September came. So if you think about it, June, July, August, September. Only 4 months did we even know that there was truly a beef between Notorious Big and Tupac. And to me, that shows how much of the media was pushing that there's this East Coast, West Coast war. And Tupac was dead even by the time that we start hearing like it's East Coast versus West Coast, which leads me to believe that the media really orchestrated a lot of what was going on, and there was some behind the scenes strings being pulled. And I believe that's also why Notorious B.I.G. was had an untimely death as well, because in order to cover this up and make it look like it was a rap situation, they had to get rid of the other opposing situation. And that way the story would never be told as in truth, and that it would always be a mix up and a bunch of messed up and mashed up conversations. And I believe that's why that happened to Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G., which people don't know. Biggie Smalls, what I was speaking on earlier, I don't know if Tupac was upset about that, if he felt some type of way about him calling himself Biggie Smalls. What a lot of people don't know is that Biggie Smalls was actually a rapper who was a white kid who was murdered, and was a friend of Tupac's. And I don't know if he felt some type of disrespect about Notorious B.I.G. calling himself Biggie Smalls. What I do know is that Tupac had did some interviews and that were popping out after he passed away that we hadn't heard until he passed away, where he was speaking on certain situations with Notorious B.I.G., where he was like, look, this was my friend. I was helping him with his career. I was a big part of helping him with his career. Which there's footage of this out there of him letting Notorious B.I.G. Perform and do things. And so I don't know if he felt like he got around him and stole a lot of things. Another fun fact, Notorious B.I.G. was supposed to be a part of Thug Life, the group. He was supposed to be one of the East Coast people, part of Thug Life. I believe he was introduced to Thug Life as one of the members, but when he got into contract with Puff Daddy and the Bad Boy, he was not allowed to go and do that. And so I believe that posed another problem. The other issue I think that people overlook is the issue between Andre Harrell and Suge Knight. Now, this is something that I think people definitely overlook when they're talking about this conversation and how you kill two birds with one stone. And I think this is I'm not saying that people are. I'm not trying to. Like I said, this is all speculation. This is all theory for me. But I believe that. The late Andre Harrell, who I am a fan of, Andre Harrell had problems with Suge Knight because what Andre Harrell was practicing was the old way of doing business with artists, where the artists didn't make money and he took the bulk of their money, and he took the bulk of their money. Well, Suge Knight was playing a devil's advocate, and he was trying to get Jodeci. I don't even think he was trying to get Jodeci more than I think he was maybe trying to help. But per the words of Mr. Dalvin from Jodeci, if you guys ever go check out the Vlad interview, there's a Vlad interview with Mr. Dalvin where he speaks on Suge Knight renegotiating their contract because Jodeci was not getting paid for their music. And Suge Knight did not get paid to renegotiate their contract. He just felt like they were getting pretty much robbed. And I think that him stepping on the toes of Andre Harrell really pissed Andre Harrell off. I believe that. And I believe that was why what made Suge Knight team up with Tupac was the fact that Andre Harrell wasn't a fan of Tupac. And that, from what I understand, I'm not sure if that's the truth because I don't know Andre Harrell. I did not know Andre Harrell. I was not around for that. But from what I understand, he was not a fan of Tupac and how he got down. And then the fact that Suge Knight had meddled in his business and then turned around and he grabbed Tupac. So I think that was what was causing another undercurrent beef that was going on that people did not know about. But I believe that the overall reason why Suge Knight actually went and got Tupac was, one, I believe he was a friend of Tupac's. And I think, two, he felt like if I got you, I can start going against these dudes. And I now have the East Coast artist, but not just the East Coast, but the East Coast representative that I truly would need to go up against this guy. But I believe that Notorious B.I.G., unbeknownst to him, was being put in a position to kind of be a pawn for that situation, unfortunately. And I believe that his untimely demise, he never seen it coming, because he true. And that's, I believe, when he was saying, like, I think his feelings were more hurt that he was thrown in the middle of that mix like that. And I think that what Gene Deal was saying about him wanting to leave Bad Boy, I believe that was true. And I believe the reason, his biggest reason, may have been because he felt like he had been thrown into something and couldn't speak for himself like he wanted to about the situation going on, because he knew that it was a conflict of interest about what he was involved in at the time. Do I think he knew it was going to happen to Tupac? No, I do not. Do I think Puff Daddy knew what was going to happen? I absolutely think he did. That's just, I believe Puff knew that Tupac was going to be shot that night at Quad Studios. What I don't believe that he thought was that he was going to live through it. I don't believe they thought he was going to live through that. Do I think that Stretch from the Live Squad helped? Because one of the theories is that Stretch from the Live Squad was holding the door closed with his feet, so nobody else could get in to the other door. And do I think that that's true? I was not there, so I could never say that that's what was going on. But it was very unfortunate that Tupac was shot in a city with people, around people that he had love for and that he was with at the time. So like I said, in my opinion, do I think that it was a musical situation? No, I believe that it was the feds who got involved, and they pulled some of those guys who were in the music industry aside and let them know, hey, this is bigger than you guys. And we, without letting you know why, we want to get rid of this dude. And, why don't you go ahead and help us? Because you guys don't like him neither. And you got this other guy meddling in y'all business, and he should not. And I just think that it was a night. I think that it was a play on the feds, and the people who want him out the way. The reason being, so when people always say, why would they target Tupac? Like, it doesn't make sense. He was just a rapper. Well, what people don't understand about musicians and people in places of conversational power with platforms like Tupac had, we can think of the late, great John Lennon, rest in peace. You can think of Sam Cooke, rest in peace. You can think of, what's his name? Excuse me. It's slipping my mind. Jimi Hendrix, rest in peace. A lot of these guys had untimely deaths at young ages, and it wasn't about money. It was about the influence that they had, I believe. And I think a lot of people believe that. And I think that the influence that Tupac possessed and had at the time of his death was very big, and it had the black youth. And it was funny because I was telling somebody the other day that, what Tupac did for a lot of the young black youth is the same thing that Nas was doing. The only difference between Nas and Tupac was Tupac really was embodying the essence of being young and black in America. Nas represented the smart black young gangsters, young black thugs, but Tupac was like Nas and Mobb Deep in one. That's how I feel. I feel like he was both of them dudes in one person. Along with some West Coast in him. And, he knew how to capture. He had the charisma to capture you. And he was like a Malcolm X. And I believe that that's what really got him, his untimely demise, and the fact that he came from the Panthers, and that, I believe they still kept an eye on him. I believe that they never took their eye off him. And when he started to get that money, because Tupac hadn't gotten money until he got to death row, he had never seen that type of money yet. He had got some money, but he had never seen he wasn't, when you think about him being a double platinum artist, selling 1 million copies 2 times, that's 2 million copies at $7 a copy. He was not only was he to be given $1 million for his, because when you sell 1 million copies, you get back then you would get an extra 500,000 on top of the payment that you got. So he would have got 2 payments of $500,000 for his selling those albums. And then he doubled back on people with Machiavelli. And Machiavelli, like I said, he passed away before Machiavelli dropped. And so the diss songs that we heard about Nas and things like that actually were not going to be released, because before he passed away, the songs about Nas and things like that, he was going to take off because he had actually sat and spoke to Nas, which we all have heard the story of him talking to Nas. And before he was, they said the day he was going to the fight, that he was actually listening to Nas's album and studying it. Now, one of the things that I've always said, a couple things that I said, and like I said, me being a fan of hip hop and at the time, and just listening to the music, and even trailing, going back, I was listening to a song by Notorious Big called Machine Gun Funk. And Machine Gun Funk, he was saying, in one of the beginning song, he said, "So you want to be hardcore with your hat to the back, talking about the gats in your raps, but I can't feel that hardcore appeal that you're screaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. This St. Christopher Williams still some." So when he was saying that, I thought he was talking about Tupac later after I heard it, I was like, dang, was that like a, if anybody know East Coast rappers, they'll diss you but won't say your name. So I felt like that was a slight diss to Tupac. I'm not sure. And this is why I think that, and this is my other theory, the reason why the song Hearts of Men was made was kind of the the rebuttal to that song, right? The Hearts of Men. And if you guys ever go hear that, what people don't know about that is that the song Machine Gun Funk, now this is a little just digging a little deeper. The sample to that is Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns. It's a song called Up for the Downstroke. And the sample in Machine Gun Funk is actually Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns, Up for the Downstroke. Well, the song Hearts of Men, which was produced by DJ Quick, is also a sample, is the sample of Up from the Downstroke, but it's the end of the song. And a lot of people may not know that, but yeah, it's the very end of the song. And if you hear Hearts of Men, it's very crazy how he said, just if you go listen to it, check it out. Just go check that song out. It's one of them songs that it's just kind of a telltale song. Another thing, so I always felt like that was a comeback song, but being creative with the East Coast type of thing, right? I'm not sure. I can't say that that's what that was, but it felt like that. Also, the other song that by Nas was The Message. So fake thug, no love, you catch a slug, CB4 gusto, your luck, or you didn't know what I was drunk though. So when I heard that, I thought that he was talking about Tupac as well, just going over the song, just like, dang, man, I peeped you fronting. I was in the Jeep, sunk in the seat, tinted with heat, beats bumping. Across the street, you was wilding, talking about how you ran the Allen in 89, laying up, playing y'all. When we was saying all that, I was like, dang, they was really dissing them. And then even the song Live Nigga Rap with Mobb Deep and Nas on that album, I felt like they was dissing Tupac. You know what I'm saying? Get snatched off the stage while you're rapping. QB represent, it can happen, could tear me, cut the party short while you jamming. I felt like that's what that was. And then even on Notorious B.I.G. when he said, left the paramedics breathing soft on them. What's your name? Who shot you? My ties, Frank Sinatra. Peruvians try to do me in. So when he said, scared, so you sent your little mans to come and kill me. But on the contrary, I packs the max, Millie squeezed off on him, left the paramedics breathing soft on him. What's your name? Who shot you? So when he said that, I felt like he was kind of like saying, you sent the outlaws to rap against me. You feel me? And but don't forget that you were shot, and in that picture of Tupac, on the stretcher with the paramedics standing over him. You know what I'm saying? I felt like when they said, what's your name? Who shot you? And that whole song, Brooklyn's Finest, Jay-Z and Biggie Small, when he said, I'm from Marcy, I'm varsity, chump, your JV. You know what I mean? I felt like them was disses. And then when he said, if Faith had twins, she probably had Tupacs. Right there, I was like, oh yeah, they dissing Tupac. And I always felt like back then, like I said, fan or not, I felt like they was throwing rocks, hiding their hands, and I felt like that was some coward shit at that time. I was young. I felt like these dudes was being cowards about it. I didn't like how Big played that. I'm forever a fan of Biggie Smalls and Notorious B.I.G. I'm forever a fan of Get Money and the Junior Mafia because I can't internalize what was going on with them brothers. There was two black men who was on their way to a higher elevation in life. And I hate that the untimely demise happened to both of them like that, but I felt like they kind of got played against each other. Um, but I do feel like, you know, the death of Tupac, or the shooting that was at Quad Studios, was based on, um, I believe that that was a hit, and I believe that it had nothing to do with um, the background stories that people tell. That Tupac was on TV telling on the guys from the grape situation, or none of that. I don't believe none of that. I don't believe that's why that happened. I believe that it was. I believe even the situation with the grape situation was the feds trying to put the nail in the coffin on Tupac and tried to dirty his name up and try to get him out of here, and it wasn't working, and he slipped through the cracks. And him slipping through the cracks, I believe that they said, okay, we're really gonna turn up the heat on this guy. We're gonna get him up out of here. And the fact that he got shot and lived, it was like, oh my God, we keep trying and we can't. You know, he had the spirit of rest in peace, Larry Davis from New York, from the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? So he had the spirit of him too, and where Larry Davis wasn't dead, but he had that type of spirit, that type of black man spirit to keep going no matter what they threw at him. And I just think that, you know, the untimely demise of Tupac in Las Vegas in 1996, September 7th, that was a hit too. And I will get into that next time on here. My next conversation about Tupac. But in the meantime, I just wanted to say, you know, what my theory was about the quad shooting, and that was my theories. And man, if y'all feel like anything that I missed, or if you feel like that you want to add something, just, man, go ahead and hit the comments. But in the meantime, man, like, subscribe, share. Let me know what y'all think. Like I said, COINTELPRO, in my opinion, has gotten rid of a few of our rappers that have the ear of the youth, and they try to teach us stuff, and they tried to give us they tried to give the youth some understanding of what may have been going on. But I also think that a lot of our rappers were too young to understand how these things were going to affect them personally, and how it really goes. And so, man, with that, I'm out of here. Peace, love, and hair grease. Man, y'all do y'all thing, and I'm gonna do mine. And thank you for coming in and checking out Supreme TV. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, the next segment I'll do about this, part 2, will be about Tupac in Las Vegas losing his life. And then I'll do one about Notorious Big and what I believe happened to Notorious Big, and my theory on that. Like I said, these are just theories. These are not facts. I wasn't there. I just lived at that time. I was just a fan of hip hop, still am. And then I got a couple other people, Mac Dre. I really want to talk about what I believe happened to Mac Dre, and why that played out. You know what I mean? I want to talk about what happened to my friend, the Jacka, and how I believe that played out. So I believe that, you know, like I said, COINTELPRO is real, and you have to, and those of the people out here who think that these rappers are just some dumb young niggas, I believe that you guys are wrong. I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that there's a bigger situation at play, and I don't believe that they only target West Coast rappers or East Coast rappers. I believe they target a lot of people who have who've had the influence. They targeted the influencers of our time, of that time, to make sure that today would be what it is now, which in my opinion is a bunch of ignorance in hip hop and a bunch of non-teaching moments, and the people who are teaching aren't being highlighted in the community. You know what I'm saying? So, hey man, y'all have a lovely one. Thank you. Like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that. Man, show me some love, and I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.